Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your Magic Dad, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be doing I believe this is our third Magic video, but this will be our first Magic video on Arena. Now, I've talked about Arena before. It is a free-to-play digital version of Magic the Gathering. It is one of a few options, but in my opinion, weighing the pros and cons of each of them, it is probably the best for the new player and the person who doesn't necessarily have a dedicated friend group who also plays Magic. If you're just looking to get on and play games and experiment with cards and build decks, then Arena is perfect. There are other options out there if you have dedicated friends who want to play, or if maybe you have a lot more experience and want to fool around with a little bit more in-depth stuff. But for me personally, Arena is what I stick to. I'm going to be doing somewhat of a combination of two videos. I want to do sort of a deck tech, I suppose, and I want to do a little bit of gameplay and kind of talk about what the deck does. So, ignore my naming habits, I suppose. Just like on my Mox field that I showed before, I have all of my stuff tagged and marked so it's organized. However, I've gone on a deck building tear the last handful of days here, and a lot of these are still very brand new, work in progress. Zero idea what I really want to call them or what they want to do yet. So that is what that is. But today we're going to be looking at new deck 5. I believe I have started referring to this deck as Blink Bending. So firstly, it's a commander deck. It is technically a brawl deck, but everything in this is legal in commander. To my knowledge, if I have anything in here that's not legal in commander, I apologize. I try and keep my decks as close to being paper legal on Arena as I can, but there are some paper non-legal cards that are legal on Arena and vice versa. So I have had this itch to build a Blink deck for the longest time. And for anyone who doesn't know, Blink is basically spawned from this card right here. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first card that really did this effect. And this is called Ephemerate. And what this card does is, for 1 white, at instant speed, you exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It gains Rebound. Rebound is a whole nother can of worms. It basically says that when you cast it, it goes to exile, and on your next upkeep, you may cast it. If you don't, it stays in exile. If you do, it goes to your graveyard like normal, but it's a free cast. So it's a card that you get twice for free, basically. Now, Blink refers to this ability of exiling something and then returning it. So this deck is a big deck that wants to blink things. And the whole theme, the whole shebang, the whole kit and caboodle is just trying to find out, you know, what we want to do, how we want to do it, and all that kind of stuff. So I initially started off, for those who are a little more familiar, you'll probably recognize the name, started off with Urian, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. But it's a very big, splashy creature that is used pretty often in decks that do this sort of thing. And I initially had that in the command zone, and it's a great commander. It's a great card in the 99 of a commander. But the problem I was having with it is that I just wasn't playing it. By the time I was playing it, it was late in the game, and I was trying to hold on to it for a big, splashy, like, wow, haha, this is like the end of the game. I'm playing this spell, and I'm going to, you know, end the game right here with this thing. and it never really worked out quite how I wanted it to. And it just, I don't know, it wound up not being as strong as I wanted it to be. So what I wound up doing was, kind of going back to the drawing board. What do I want the deck to do? Obviously I want it to blink, but beyond that, what's the, what's the idea? What's the goal? What's the objective, right? And so what I kind of came to realize was like, hey, not only am I using blink, I'm using the airbend ability from Avatar, The Last Airbender. And what airbending does is kind of similar to blink in a way. You also have another type of deck or archetype called bounce, and it's like blink but a little slower. So bounce is removing something, putting it back in your hand. I think that airbending is kind of the road between the two of them. So when you airbend something, it goes to exile, and that's the whole point, right? Is the nice thing about something going to exile is it no longer exists within the game. That is the technical rule definition of what exile means. It is not inside the game anymore, and it just does not exist within the world of Magic. So when something is in exile, it is almost entirely untouchable. There are very, very few cards that can reach into exile outside of their specific things. Like if I airbend something using Aang, I can cast it, but you can't reach into exile and mess with it. I can mess with it because it's my card, and I've put it there with a specific mechanic that I am allowed to interact with. But generally speaking, barring one or two cards, you can't really do too much about exile. It just is there, and it's there once it's there, and you can't do anything about it. Which is a nice thing, in my opinion. And it makes the whole thing just very nice. So, one of the downsides of Arena is that it kind of just auto sorts your decks when you build them, and it doesn't usually get it too great. So I'm not gonna lie about that. That is one of the more downsidey kind of aspects of the deck. And again, this is a work in progress deck still by technicality. I think I'm mostly happy with where it sits currently, but for now, it just is that. It is a rough state deck that I am still working on. Anyways, I did get sidetracked on my thought process. I apologize. Here we go. So, after messing around with Yorion and not really loving what was going on, I decided to take a look and bounced around between 2 or 3 options before coming back to Aang and seeing, okay, I've got a few things in here to benefit myself off of what I'm doing. The same kind of theming of taking stuff, removing it, putting it in exile, and being able to, reach out and grab it again, right? So I wound up settling on this. Aang is a 2/3 for 1 and Azorius. Azorius is the pairing name for blue and white. He is a human avatar ally. He's got flash, flying, and when Aang enters, airbend up to 1 other target creature or spell. Now the neat thing about this is that I did not realize at first is because of this being flash and the wording of spell, you can essentially just use this as a counter spell. So you can keep Aang in your hand, and somebody casts something you don't want them to, you throw Aang out onto the battlefield and you just put it in exile. Now, if you're airbending something that another player controls, they can, their owner, the controller, can pay 2 and cast it again, but that leaves you space, that gives you the ability to just interact with things in a unique way. So it's almost as if a, counter spell for 1 turn is stapled onto your commander. Or you can use it to, bounce your own creatures or gain value or just do, whatever you need to. I will be honest, I don't use this other ability very often because I'm blinking this and the mana spent to do this would be typically wasted. But you can waterbend, which means that you can pay 8 generic mana. In this case, the cost is 8. The cost may differ from card to card. Or you can tap any number of creatures and artifacts that you control, and each one that you tap pays for 1 of the generic. So if I have 8 creatures on the field besides Aang, and I want to, I can tap all 8 creatures and transform Aang into Aang and La, and it has reach and trample. It is a 5/5, and when Aang and La attacks, put a +1 counter on each tapped creature I control. So if you are going the route of waterbending and gaining value from tapping and untapping your stuff, that would probably be a very, very viable strategy to use this card as a commander for that as well. I have a couple times just to get a bigger body on the field or get a little value where I need used this ability, but typically speaking, I save that for a close out the game moment or just don't use it at all. So what I will do first here is I have, as I've been yapping, organized all my cards in categories of what their purpose is. And if you're like me and you're incredibly autistic, then something like Magic is a very large game of math. So what that means is you have a certain number of lands because that it makes your mana average a certain number, and it makes your percentage rate of getting a certain number of lands in each hand that you draw a certain number. So what you're doing is just constantly going through numbers. I need this many of that kind of card. I need that many of this kind of card. If I have this much of that, then it will equal out to this, and it will make my averages look like this, and so on and so on and so on. So with all of this math, there are a few things that I want to share with you. Is one, that for any type of thing you want to do regularly, but maybe isn't your main theme of your deck, about 7 is the sweet spot. So for me, I have right here, this is my removal section of my deck, and this right here is my control section of my deck. It's white, it's blue. Both of those colors are relatively good at removal and control. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 removal spells, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 counter spells. So this means that I have a good chance of running into any number of these anytime I play this game. I have seen almost all of these cards just about every single match that I've played using this deck so far. So 7 is a really sweet number for your removal, for your ramp, for your card draw, for your whatever you want to do. If you've got a sub-theme, or if you just want generic interaction, whether that's going and finding land, whether it's going and drawing cards, whether it's looting, whether it's cantripping, whether it's whatever, 7 is your sweet spot. Any sort of theme beyond that, if you're doing something and you're not wanting it to happen enough, you probably should not be making it a theme if you're not wanting it to run into it as much. I don't know if that made sense. I'm a little tired. I apologize. But for your main theme of your deck, you want to shoot for about 30 cards that do your main theme. And for me right now, I have this whole stack right here that is my blink. So 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 21. I have 21. I could do a little more blinking stuff, but the thing about blink is if everything in your deck is blink and that's all you get, then you don't have any sort of value. Blink is one of those things where even if it's your main thing, you want to have reasons to blink. I could remove a bunch of this stuff in my deck and put more blink and get up to 30 and just be blinking constantly, which would be really cool. But if I don't have a purpose in the removal and return of a card, then I'm just playing solitaire at that point. So I have this deck right here, which is all of my blink. We have Cloud Shift, which is a 1 mana instant, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under my control. We got Daydream, exile target creature, return it to the battlefield with a +1 counter on it. It also has flashback. We've got Ephemerate, which we've talked about. Essence Flux, exile target creature you control, return it to the battlefield with a +1 counter if it is a spirit. Splash Portal, exile, same thing, blink it. If it was a bird, frog, otter, or a rat, you draw a card. This one is really fun. Airbender Ascension. When it enters, airbend up to 1 target creature. Whenever a creature I control enters, put a quest counter on it, and at the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, you blink something. So this comes down, and if you put it down turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 maybe, and you've already got some blink combos going off, this immediately goes up to 5, 6, 7 counters on it, and then as soon as your turn is over, you get to blink something for free. It's a really, really solid card. I like it a lot. Charming Prince is a really strong card. Just about every blink deck you see is going to be running this. When he enters, you can choose 1. You get to scry 2. You get to gain 3 life, or you get to blink something. Now, there are 2 types of blink. You've got your Ephemerates and all of that, which is exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield. Happens immediately. With Charming Prince and other similar effects, it says exile target creature you control, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of your next end step. So if you are pairing this with something at instant speed, you can blink something on an opponent's turn and then basically negate that waiting period. But if you do this on your turn, it will sometimes lead to problems, so you just have to pay attention to what you're doing. Up next we have Flicker of Fate, exile target creature or enchantment, which is a really nice use if somebody's trying to remove your Airbender Ascension, and we'll notice here in a second I've got several other enchantments and enchantment creatures and things going on to sort of support my blink nonsense. This is a good way to be able to protect my enchantments. Next we have Justiciar's Portal. Exile target creature you control if it gains first strike until end of turn. This is at instant speed. This is helpful if you have something with haste, so you can blink it, have it come back in, get all your triggers stacked up, and then swing in. I don't believe there's anything in this deck that has haste. I could be mistaken, but you can also use this as a defensive ability. So you can swing in on your turn, keep a little mana up past your turn. Somebody tries to attack you with something that you want dead. You blink your creature, it gets first strike and is able to kill the thing and survive at the same time. We have Momentary Blink, where it is a blink, but it also has flashback. Again, flashback is a very good mechanic. We have Personify, a fantastic card that came out recently in Lorwyn Eclipsed. You blink something and then you create a 1/1 colorless token, which is very nice. Stylin's Ruse, blink something. If a pirate was exiled this way, and draw a card. I don't believe I have any pirates in the deck, but if you're in a real big pinch, you could have used, like one of your changeling tokens that you've made and blink that, and it technically counts as a pirate. It will not re-enter the battlefield because it was a token, but if you're in a pinch and you need that card draw, that is a good way to combo for a card draw. Up next we have a creature, the Guardian of Girapur. It is a 3/3 angel with flying, and when it enters, exile up to 1 target creature or artifact you control, and this is also a slow blink, so it comes in at the end of your next end step. Soul Herder. This creature, it is a 1/1 spirit, and whenever a creature is exiled from the battlefield, put a +1 counter on this creature. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this is one of those things that sits on the field and passively gives you a blink. This is a really, really strong effect. Same reason why Airbender Ascension is so good, and same reason why some of these other cards down here we'll get to in a moment is so good. But the really nice thing about this is it just sits there, it does it. If it's doing it itself, you're gaining value, and this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you're using your other instants and sorceries and abilities to do it, then this is still getting that. Anytime something goes to exile is fantastic. And with some of your removal, which I'll get to in a second, we have some exiling effects, and it's just any creature. So it can be yours, it can be your opponent's, doesn't matter. It's a really, really solid card. Up next we have Monk Gyatso. I may cut this card out. I'm kind of debating on it. I like the effect. I think it's strong. I'm just not seeing much use out of it yet. Maybe I'll play a match here and we'll just run into Monk Gyatso and he'll just carry the whole game. But this allows you to evade and protect. I'm actually going to move him over here to my protection section, I believe, because while you can use this as a blink effect, so if he's on the field and I target something else with one of my spells, I can blink that and then that and get a little bit of extra value, but it seems to be a little bit slower than what I like, although it is good protection. If somebody goes to board wipe, if somebody goes to remove something, somebody tries to kill something, enchant something, and you don't want it to happen, Monk Gyatso's out, it just gets airbended. It just completely evades it, which is really nice. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure about him. He might be something that gets cut. Up next we do have Appa, Steadfast Guardian. It is a 3/4 flying bison ally with flash for 2 and 2 white. When Appa enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 ally white token. So Appa enters and you just airbend everything that you want, and anything you cast something again, you're making tokens. This is a really good way to sort of close out the game. Wait until, you know, a big splashy, you know, turn before the last turn. Got your opponent semi on the ropes, and maybe they're about to board wipe, right? You've got your enchantments out, you've got your creatures out. You are ready to try and go for the kill, and their last ditch effort is board wipe. You drop Appa, everything goes away, but you still have access to it. And if Appa doesn't die, if it were not in a board wipe situation, but you know, something, whatever the situation may be, now anytime you re-enter any of your things from exile onto the battlefield, you're getting extra bodies. So for every recast, every replay, everything that you do, you're just getting more little guys. And that can be used for protection, or it can be used to swing in and close out the game. Up next we have Nico, Light of Hope. It is a 3/4 human wizard for 2 and Azorius. And when Nico enters, create 2 shard tokens. You can pay 2, tap Nico, and exile a target non-legendary creature I control. Shards you control become copies of it until the next end step. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So essentially, you want to blink Nico a bunch, and then blink out one of your non-legendary creatures. There aren't a ton in here, I'm not going to lie. Most of my creatures are legendary, but if you blink Nico 2 or 3 times, you'll have 6 or 8 shards, and then you can blink out a Charming Prince. And they become copies of Charming Prince. So now all of a sudden you have 8 copies of Charming Prince. And all of his enter triggers will go off, and then you're able to gain life, you're able to scry, you're able to blink more, and so on and so on. And this is another one of those cards that sits there and you can basically blink on a stick. It is the slower blink, but it gives you the ability to combo off with multiple different creatures in your deck. Up next we have OG, the Exquisite Blade, 2/3 for 2 and Orzhov. Again, he's a human monk. Whenever OG enters, you gain 2 life and scry 2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you blink something. Up to 1 creature you control, turn to the battlefield. I am just now realizing that this is a card from a set that I don't think is legal in paper, and I could be wrong there. I think that might be an alchemy only card. Alchemy is the digital only version that they have on Magic the Gathering Arena, and it is very pay to win. It is very unbalanced and incredibly broken, and I personally hate it, and I refuse to use any card as long as I can get away with it. I really like this card. Now realizing that, I might wind up cutting this card as well, but we will see. For now, it's in there. Up next we have Aang, Airbending Master. He is a 4/4, 4/4 and a white. When Aang enters, airbend another target creature. When one or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, in other words, blink, bounce, etc., you get an experience counter at the beginning of your upkeep. Create a 1/1 white ally creature token for each experience counter you have. So this is another way to make a bunch of little guys to protect yourself and run your enemies ragged. Up next we have Y'shtola Rule from Final Fantasy, a 3/5 for 4 and 2 blue. She is a cat and druid, and at the beginning of your end step, you blink something. Then if it's the first end step, there's an additional end step. So she gives you 2 blinks at the beginning of your end of your turn, every single turn, just by sitting there. And lastly, this is a card that is only on Arena, but it does have a paper printed counterpart. This is from a set on Arena called Through the Omen Paths. Now this was a licensing issue. This is from the Spider-Man set, and this is the digital counterpart to Cling to the Ceiling. For X and blue, you blink X target artifacts and or creatures. It is a slow blink, but this is a super strong card. You can basically play 1 blue, and then for each thing you want to blink, yours or your opponent's, you do it. They just go away until the end of turn. You can do it on your opponent's turn if your opponent is doing some like massive huge token deck, or they're going really wide, or you need to remove some of their stuff, they're comboing off. You can just take all their stuff, say nope, it goes away until the end of your turn. Can't play it, can't have it, can't use it. But yes, with the Spider-Man cards specifically, there was a licensing issue. The Spider-Man cards are not on Magic Arena, but there are counterparts. All of the cards are the same exact thing, they just have different names, different art. But their abilities, their typing, their text, their rules are all the same. So if you're looking to have any sort of interest in building this deck in paper or use this card in paper, you are going to want to look for Cling to the Ceiling. Up next, we have our combo pieces / make little dudes section of the deck. There's only 5 in here, but they're very nice cards. Glasspool Mimic is a really nice card because if you don't necessarily need this effect, you can just play it as a land. It's a slow land, it enters untapped. It's not the best, but when you're in a pinch and you need it, or if it's in your opening hand, it's there. But Glasspool Mimic for 2 and a blue is a 0/0 shapeshifter rogue. It says you may have this creature enter as a copy of a creature you control, except it is a shapeshifter rogue in addition to its other types. So, why would you want to do this? Well, for a bunch of different reasons. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can combo with it. Maybe you want one of your legendaries to die, but you want their effect to stay on the battlefield. Whatever. You can have this be a copy of any of your non-legendaries, and it'll stay there. A really fun thing to copy is this next card that I'm going to talk about in a second, which is a very powerful card. But this just sits here and gives you options, gives you the ability to have a land or just another body that you already have. One of your stronger creatures, you need another copy of it. It's Commander, you don't have another copy of it. Boom, here's your another copy. Up next we have Echo Casting Symposium, a very new card from the Strixhaven set that just came out recently. It has Paradigm, so the rules and logistics of what Paradigm does are very finicky, and I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it, but essentially the spell gets exiled when you cast it. If it's the first time you have cast a spell with this name, then at the beginning of your upkeep, you cast a copy of it from exile without paying its mana cost at the beginning of each of your first main phases. So I cast this. It's the first card with the name of it that I've cast this game. It then goes to exile immediately. You don't actually cast it. The cast trigger sends it to exile immediately, and then it gets copied from exile. And then for the rest of the entire game, you just get a free cast of it. I've got both the blue and the white ones in here, but for now we're just going to look at the blue one, Echo Casting Symposium. Target player creates a token that's a copy of target creature you control. This works a lot better in Commander for the target player aspect of it. If you're trying to politic, if you're trying to help, if you're playing two-headed giant, if you're just trying to be silly, goofy, whatever, give somebody a, bad creature maybe or something like that. Sure, but in this deck, it's always going to be you, and you're most likely going to be making copies, again, of something like this creature here, or Charming Prince, or something, Soul Herder maybe, anything like that, anything that gives you value. Up next, we have the Overlord of the Mistmoors, very strong card from Duskmourn. It is a 6/6 for 5 and 2 white, but it has Impending 4. The Impending cost is 2 and 2 white. What Impending is essentially you cast this card for a cheaper cost, and you get counters on it, and at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, the counter is removed, and it becomes a creature only when your counter is removed. So it sits there as an enchantment, you can't really do much with it, and then each of your turns it ticks down. So this comes in, you wait for turns, and then you get a 6/6. But the enters trigger is what we really care about. So whenever this enters or attacks, but enters mainly because we're blinking it, you make 2/2/1 white insect creature tokens with flying. So every time this hits the battlefield, you get 2 flying bodies. Now, there's been times where I've hard cast this. There's been many times where I've cast it for its impending cost, but the best thing that you can do is blink it over and over and over. And notably, it is not a legendary creature, so you can make copies of it. Up next in our Make Little Guys section here is Amaria's Call. It is a sorcery for 4 and 3 white. You can create 2 4/4 white angel warrior creature tokens with flying. Non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Very strong card. Once again, this is one of the double-sided cards. They haven't printed anything like these in a good while, but there was a cycle from this set, from Zendikar Rising, I believe it was. And on the backside, you had your double-sided card where one was a land, one was a spell you could play. But on the mythic cycle of these cards, they all are essentially a shock land. It can enter untapped, or you can pay 3 life and have it not enter untapped. So these are really good just to have untapped non-basic land, but their effects are also very strong. I have the white one and also the blue one, but the blue one has a different effect, and we'll get to that in a different section over here. Up next is a card that I have referenced several times. This is Summon Knights of Round. For 6 and 2 white, you get an indestructible 3/3 enchantment saga creature. For those of you who are uninitiated, sagas are a type of enchantment that when you play them, they come down and they get a counter, and then each turn after your draw step, they get another counter. Once you run out of counters to put on it, so for the instance this one has 5 counters, after 5 turns of this being on the field, it gets sacrificed. But in that meantime, you get all of these triggers. So for this one, you get a 3/3 indestructible body, which is very, very strong. I can't tell you how many times I've just had this thing on the field, and I start blinking it, start making copies of it, and somebody's swinging in at me, and they just can't get through because I'm just putting this in front of whatever they're swinging. And it's indestructible, so it doesn't matter. It can take as much damage as it wants, and it's never going to die. So it's very strong, just face value. But for 4 turns in a row, or as many times as you blink it, you make 3 2/2 white knight creature tokens. So every time this thing hits the field, you get 4 bodies. You get a 3/3 indestructible and 3 2/2s. Insane. But if it just sits there and it just goes through your all 5 of your counters, then you get this guy, a 3/3 with indestructible. You get 3 6 9 12 2/2s, and then on its final step, every other creature you control, every other creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and they all get indestructible. So if you've got most of your board, like most of your creatures out on the board, if you got a bunch of tokens, if you're maybe playing a really long game, but you need to board wipe because you can see you're about to get overrun, let this guy end. Everything you have gets indestructible. This guy dies, all your other stuff can't die, you board wipe, nothing on your side dies, and then you swing in with everything being buffed up by 2/2. It's an insane card. If you're making copies of it, if you're blinking it, if you are bouncing it in and out of the field, it just is a very phenomenal card. Up next, we have our life gain section. The final card right here is going to be a card that I don't know if it technically belongs here, but I don't know where else it would belong, so we're going to leave it here. I am considering buffing this up, but this is one of my, I suppose, payoffs for the blink. Like I said, you kind of want the ability to get value, generate things from blinking. If you're just putting things in and out with no purpose, there's not a real reason to do it. But Soul Warden, if I'm not mistaken, is the first card that had an effect like this. There's been many printed since, but Soul Warden is the best. You got a 1/1 for 1 white, a human cleric, and it says whenever another creature enters, I gain a life. My creatures, your creatures, his creatures, her creatures, tokens, non-tokens, doesn't matter. If a creature enters the game, I gain life. Fantastic card. We also have Hinterland Sanctifier, a 1/2 rabbit cleric for 1. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain a life. This is going to be the more balanced effect that is very similar in what you are going to be finding as the standard for an effect like this. Up next, we have Dazzling Angel. There are some other ones that are a little bit cheaper that I probably could have gone with, but I like this one, both for the body and for just the overall what it does, right? You don't want everything in your deck to be a cheap 1/1 card. You know, it's okay to have some bigger stuff. But Dazzling Angel for 2 and a white is a 2/3 angel with flying, and whenever another creature you control enters, you gain a life. Lastly, for the creatures in this section, we have Halia, Guided by Light, 2 and a white, for a 3/3 human soldier. Whenever Halia or another creature or artifact you control enters, you gain a life. So if you were chucking artifacts down, if you're making tokens, if you're putting out creatures, every time something enters, you gain a life. Similar effect to everything else we've seen in this section so far. However, if you've gained 3 or more life this turn, draw a card at the beginning of your end step. Really nice. Free card draw. Put this out, you drop Summon Knights Around. 3 creatures enter, you gain 3 life, draw a card. Blink Summon Knights Around every single turn. You're gaining 3 life, you're drawing a card, you're making tokens, and so on. She also has an ability called Warp. You may cast this card for your hand for its warp cost. It becomes exiled at the beginning of the next end step, and you can cast it from exile on a later turn. This will also pair really nicely with Appa, Steadfast Guardian, because you can pay 1 instead of 3, get her out. So if you want to combo her, maybe you have 9 mana. You want to drop her in for 1, cast Summon Knights Around, you gain your 3 life, you draw your card, then she goes to exile. Then later on, you can cast her again off of Appa. She comes in for her full cost. You make a 1/1, you gain life, you gain a life off of her, and so on and so on and so on. She's a phenomenal card, very, very strong, and the warp ability is fantastic. Lastly, for the card that I don't know if it necessarily belongs in this section, but this is one of my favorite cards of all time. This is Approach of the Second Sun from the original Strixhaven, the Mystic Archive, and it is a sorcery for 6 and a white. If this spell was cast from your hand, and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun, this game you win. So this is an alternate win con for this deck. It's really fun, it's really good, it's a super simple win con that a lot of people just don't pay attention to. It's great. Otherwise, so in other words, if you haven't cast another one, you put it from the 7 from the top in your library and you gain 7 life. So essentially, you're going to cast this, you're going to gain 7 life, and then you're going to put it 7 cards down from your top card. So your opponent is now on a 7-turn clock at the very most, if we're being generous. If you have any sort of card draw, any sort of engine to get to it faster, any sort of ability to scry, or look at the top 3, look at the top 2, put this many in your hand and this many on the bottom, and any sort of way to play with what the top card on your library is, this will basically just win you the game. Do be careful, don't search, don't fetch, don't do anything that will tamper with your library and make you shuffle it. Only do card draw and scry and surveil and things like that, because if you shuffle it, you're out of luck, you have to go and find it again. But it is a very good card, it gives you a decent amount of life gain. It's 7 mana for 7 life, plus the possibility of a win condition. And if you have some way to shuffle this into your library or something like that, it doesn't matter if it resolves, it just matters that you cast it. So if they counter this, you still have cast it, it just didn't resolve. So if it goes to the graveyard and you get some way to shuffle it back into your graveyard or return it to your hand or anything like that, and you cast it again, even if the first time was not resolved, it got countered or something, you win the game. It's fantastic. Up next, we have our removal section and our control section. Talked a little bit about this at the start. Pretty generic, pretty straightforward, barring one or two cards that are personal favorites. Firstly, we have Erode, 1 mana, instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller may search the library for basic land card, put on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. So, 1 mana, destroy something. Fantastic, fantastic card. I think right now it's one of the more expensive, like, rares from the new Strixhaven. I think this, and I think, Flashback are like the two. I think Flashback is 10 and this is 15. Very, very, very good cards. Path to Exile, 1 mana, exile target creature. Its controller may search its library for basic land card, put on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. These are cheap removal spells that have a drawback of your opponent gets a land. You have Swords to Plowshare that does the same thing, but they gain life equal to its power. We've got another cheap instant, remove anything, destroy target creature. They get a 1/1 black inkling with flying. One more of these, destroy target non-land permanent. This is really, really, really strong. This doesn't have to be a creature. It's just anything that isn't a land dies. They do get a lander token, which means they can pay 2 and go and fetch a land. But for what it does, it's very, very good. Memories of Nibelheim, which is typically the Stroke of Midnight. This is just the Final Fantasy bonus sheet version. I love Final Fantasy, love anime, love the art style, the one that I use. Instant, 2 and a white, destroy target non-land permanent. Once again, that effect is incredibly strong. Its controller creates a 1/1 white human token. A 1/1 is not that scary. A lander is not that scary. A 1/1 with flying can be scary, but there's enough flying in this deck, I don't care about it. Up next, we have the Fate of the Sun Crystal. This is one of the more janky ones. This is a 4 and a white instant speed. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a tapped creature, destroy target non-land permanent. So if you're pointing it at a creature, you get to destroy it for 3 mana if it's tapped. Fantastic. It is a destroy anything that is not a land for 5 mana. It's a little pricey, but there aren't too many effects like that in the game currently. For our counter spells, we have ourselves a Mana Tithe. This one kind of slept on, but I do like the card. Situational, early game mostly. Counter target spell, unless its controller pays 1. This is really good early on in the game. Maybe somebody is trying to get their commander down on curve. They've got a 3, 4, 5 mana commander, and they're just fully tapping themselves out to cast it. Or maybe somebody's trying to ramp. Maybe they're cast a Rampant Growth, or maybe they're casting a Cultivate, and they're tapping 3 out of their 4 mana. If they do pay the 1, they still get their spell off, but they have tapped down all of their mana. You are removing their resources. It's very useful. It's not as strong as a straight counter target spell with no downside, but early game and situationally it is very, very strong. Plus it's just cool that there's a counter spell in white. Up next, we have Memory Lapse, 1 and a blue, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, put it on top of its owner's library instead of the graveyard. So there is a slight downside of they get to try and cast it again, but realistically, if it's in the graveyard and somebody's running a good deck with any sort of recursion, they can cast it again later on if they want to anyway. Up next, we have Wild Rose Rebellion, again with the Final Fantasy. This is just counter spell, 2 blue, instant speed, counter target spell. This is the counter spell. Long River's Pool, phenomenal, very slept on card. Instant for 2 blue, counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. So this says gift a card. What that means is from this set, which is Bloomborough, there is a mechanic called gift. You can gift a token, gift a card, gift a this, gift a that, and basically you get an improved benefit to your spell if you help out your opponent a little bit, right? So in Commander, you don't have to, so for example, If you are casting something and I want to counter it, I can counter your spell and gift somebody else in the 4-man group a card. I don't have to gift you a card. I can gift anybody who's an opponent a card, which is really neat. And if it's a creature card, it's just a creature card and it just gets countered for 2 mana. It's a very, very good, very, very strong. I don't see many people using it often. Up next, we have the Wild Unraveling. This is another one that I might wind up taking out. It's very similar to Long River's Pull that we just looked at, 2 mana, counter target spell, but you have an additional cost of paying 1 generic, so it's a 3 mana counter spell, which is the going rate for the average counter spell, frankly. Counter spell is like the best counter spell of all time for the fact of it's 2 blue and it just does it. Most of them are not going to be that good. This one is close, but you have the option of blighting too. So if you got a bunch of like little 1/1s and dorks and whatever, you can blight more than what you like the toughness is. So if you have a 1/1, if you have a 0/1, you can still blight 2 on that 0/1. If you have any sort of payoff for dumping something into the graveyard or anything like that, it's a good thing to do, but I have found myself in situations where this was my counter spell in hand. I didn't have a creature, I didn't have 3 mana, it was early game, and I thought in my head, oh, I can counter the next big spell they cast. I was not able to. So this might get swapped out for a different counter spell, we'll see. Up next is my personal favorite counterspell of all time. Saw it coming from Kaldheim, my personal favorite set of all time. 1 and 2 blue counter target spell. You can also foretell it, so what that means is during your turn, you can pay 2 and exile it face down. Nobody knows what it is, you're just paying 2 generic mana, it goes to exile. Any turn after that turn, you can cast it for cheaper. So, the cool thing about these is they're all like 2 blue, 2 blue, 2 blue. If you foretell this, you can play 1 and a blue, which might not sound like a big deal, but maybe you only have a white mana and a blue mana open. Maybe your mana screwed, maybe you're needing blue for your other sources, like whatever the case may be. This gives you the ability to have a 2 mana counter target spell for a generic and a blue. And if you're just hard casting it, it's 3 mana counter target spell. That's a really solid going rate for a counter spell. Up next we have Archmage's Charm, another card that I've kind of thought of maybe taking out, maybe cutting, maybe not. 3 blue, kind of a rough price to pay, but you know, it's doable. Choose 1, instant speed, counter target spell. Target player draws 2 cards, gain control of target non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. Gives you a little bit of theft, gives you some card draw, gives you some control. It's a good card, I don't think it's bad. I just wind up having it in my hand and sit a lot of the times because in my brain I'm saying, okay, I want to sit on this in case I need card draw. I want to sit on this in case I want to steal something. Like somebody drops, you know, a 1 mana artifact or a 0 mana artifact and I want to like steal it from them so they can't combo off or something. So it sits in my hand and I don't use it as much as I could. That being said, again, it is a fantastic card. I don't think it's bad. I don't think that you need to cut it, but I'm feeling like maybe I will. Up next we have our protection section. We have Restoration Magic, phenomenal card, don't see many people use it. The total protection of it is a little pricey, but it's worth it, I think. It's a tiered card, which means you choose any number and you pay that much price. So, the card's base value is 1 white mana. For the first tier, Cure, you pay 0 mana. Target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. So it is a 1 white protection for a creature. Or a permanent, actually, it's not even a creature. For the second tier, Cura, you can pay 1, so 1 and a white total. Target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 3 life. And for the last one, Curaga, for 3 and a white, so in total 3 generic, 2 white, 5 mana. All permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible, and you gain 6 life. So for 5 mana, you just protect your entire board for the entire turn, and you gain life. It's a really, really solid card. If you're in a pinch, it's not as cheap as some other options. In green, you have things like Fog and Heroic Intervention for 1 mana and 2 mana, Haze of Pollen for 2 mana, I believe, so on and so on. But in the colors, and what it does is really, really solid and fits really well in the deck. Up next, we have a card that I've yet to be able to resolve or use, but I feel like it'll come in handy. 1 and a white for Duty Beyond Death, instant speed as an additional cost, sacrifice a creature. Again, this deck is fine with things going to the graveyard, and it's fine with sacking tokens. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn, put a +1 counter on each creature you control. Somebody tries to board wipe, sack a 1/1, sack a 2/1, sack a 2/2, sack whatever you want to sack. Maybe you made 37 copies of one of your non-legendary creatures, sack one of them. Maybe you want one of your creatures to go to the graveyard, sack one of them. Everything you control gains indestructible, board wipe doesn't go through, they lose all of their creatures, all your stuff gets pumped, and then you can swing in and close out the game. Up next, we have Teferi's Protection, 2 and a white for an instant until your next turn. Your life total can't change. You gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out, and you exile Teferi's Protection. This is like the protection card of all of Magic. It is a game changer. It is strong, and it is expensive. So when you cast this, all of your stuff just ceases to exist. It technically goes to exile without leaving and re-entering the battlefield in a very weird sort of way. Phasing out is basically, again, it ceases to exist within the game of Magic. A lot of people will get a little salty over this card. I don't put it in every white deck that I own. A lot of people will. A lot of people will not use it at all. I like it, and I think it fits in this deck really, really well. We have already talked about Monk Gyatso. He is in here for now. I might take him out later. I'm not sure. Next, we have the second Paradigm spell in the deck in the white variation. Good God. For 5 and 2 white, a sorcery. Return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. There are times where you maybe have been blinking stuff and evading stuff and protecting stuff all game, and now you need a target for this to go off. So maybe you want to jump block with a commander or something that's a safe target to allow go to the graveyard. Whatever the case, you have to have a target for this to point at. If you do not have a target, you cannot cast it. But as long as you have one non-land permanent in your graveyard, you can cast this. Paradigm happens every turn for the rest of the game. You get to return something to your battlefield for free. It allows you to, at the beginning of your upkeep, you can let this go and sacrifice it, and then it comes back the next turn. Somebody can blow up your Airbender Ascension. It goes to the graveyard, comes back next turn. So on and so on and so on. It is a very good card. Up next, we have our board wipe section. We've got Avatar's Wrath. This is mostly in here for theme and for flavor. It is not the strongest board wipe, but it is good, and I think for the cost and what it does, it's very strong. Choose up to one creature, 2 and a white, 2 and 2 white, sorry, sorcery speed. Choose up to one target creature, airbend all other creatures. Typically, you're gonna choose one of yours, but you may have a play where you want to choose an opponent's, I don't know. Until your next turn, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hand. Exile Avatar's Wrath. So once you cast this, it goes to exile, it's gone forever. You bounce everything on the board that's a creature, and your opponents cannot cast them for at least one turn. So it bounces them and they're stuck there for a full turn cycle. It's really, really nice, really, really strong, definitely good, and the theme of the deck, it fits really nicely. Day of Judgment, once again, this is one of the Magic cards of all time. 2 and a white, 2 and 2 white, sorcery speed, destroy all creatures. And once again, this is the Strixhaven Mythical Archive version from way back when, and I love it to death. Very simple, very straightforward. Up next, we have Ondu Inversion and Ondu Sky Ruins. A tapped land or destroy all non-land permanents. It is expensive, but this hits artifacts, this hits creatures, this hits enchantments, this hits battles, this hits planeswalkers. Anything that is on the field is gone besides land. In a pinch, somebody's comboing off. They've got 50 million artifacts and enchantments and everything under the sun, and if they get another turn with all their pieces out, you lose. You drop this, you lose your board, but so do they, and they're probably suffering a lot more than you are if you're playing this. This is a back pocket, I don't lose the game button. Up next we have Vanquish the Horde, 6 and 2 white for sorcery speed. That costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. So if there's 6 or more creatures out on the battlefield, it's a 2 mana destroy all creatures board wipe. Fantastic card. And lastly, for our last board wipe, we have White Sun Zenith, X and 2 white. You gain X life. Create X 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Mites. They have Toxic, and this token can't block. And if X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. This is a really nice way to close out the game. You drop it, you make 10, you make 8, you make 6, you make 5, you make 7, whatever. You get your tokens, everything else dies. You get to keep your tokens, and then you get to swing them in, and if somebody has a toxic counter, once they reach 10, they just lose the game no matter what their life total is. So, at the very least, you have some buffer against losing your own creatures. Up next, we have card draw / card advantage for the last section that I'm going to be speaking on. I probably will not talk about my land base. It's pretty generic, just all good lands that are dual lands and trying to not have any land that comes in tapped. Enough basics to fill out the slots, but not too many basics that you run into too many of them. First off, we have Flow State, a phenomenal banger card from Strixhaven. Once again, lots of Strixhaven is in this deck. Is for 1 and a blue. This is a sorcery speed. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one in your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. That's a very common effect. This has been printed numerous times on numerous different cards. However, if there's an instant card and a sorcery card in your graveyard, instead put 2 into your hand and the rest on the bottom in any order. So for 2 mana, you get 2 cards, and you get to shuffle away a card you don't want on top. Very, very strong. Airbending Lesson, another avatar card, 2 and a white for an instant. Airbend target non-land permanent. It can be yours, it can be an opponent. You draw a card. Very simple, very straightforward, very good card. Card advantage, that was the word I was looking for. Up next, we have Enduring Innocence, 1 and 2 white, a very, very good cycle of cards from Duskmourn. This is a Sheep Glimmer enchantment creature, a 2/1 with lifelink. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control with power 2 or less enter, draw a card. All of your tokens are 2 or less. A lot of your creatures are 2 or less. This ability triggers only once each turn, and when Enduring Innocence dies, if it was a creature returned to the battlefield under its owner's control, it is an enchantment. So, if somebody decides, hey, I don't like your card advantage, they blow it up, that's fine. It just comes back. It blinks its own self and turns itself into an enchantment. And a lot of people don't run specifically enchantment removal, or if they do, they run a couple enchantment, a couple artifact, and then a bunch of creature, because creatures are typically the things you're going for. Enchantments are a lot harder to blink, enchantments are a lot harder to remove than creatures. Next we have Stock Up. Again, look at the top 5, put 2 in my hand, 3 on the bottom in any order. Very similar to Flow State, just a little more mana for 2 and a blue, and a card number difference. Enduring Curiosity, this is the blue side of that other enduring enchantment creature that we just talked about. This is the blue one, and it is a Cat Glimmer instead of a, what was the other one? A Sheep Glimmer? Yeah. So this one says it's got flash. It's a 4/3 for 2 and 2 blue. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. When Enduring Curiosity dies, if it was a creature returned to the battlefield under its owner's control, it is an enchantment. So this one is combat damage triggers for drawing cards, and you do get to discard a card as well. Wait, what was I thought there was something in here that made me discard. Oh, that's the next thing. You don't have to discard at all. You just draw a card on combat damage, and this allows you to draw a card on creatures entering that are small. Up next, we have the Overlord of the Flood Pits. We talked about the Duskmourn cycle of these enchantment creatures. This is the blue version of the white one over there. It's impending 4 for 1 and 2 blue, or its full cost is 3 and 2 blue. It's a 5/3 avatar horror with flying, and whenever this permanent enters or attacks, draw 2, then discard. Again, allowing you to cycle through your library, allowing you to get cards in hand, allowing you to get rid of cards you don't want. and is just generically speaking very useful. Also, if you have something like your restoration seminar in play, you can intentionally cycle away your creatures. Purposely discard your creatures, and then at the beginning of your next turn, they enter for free, right? Very good combo-y synergistic stuff. Up next, we have Whirlwind Technique, another card I've kind of thought of removing. It's a touch expensive, I think, for what it does, but it's also not bad. 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue, sorcery speed, instant speed, apologize. Target player draws 2 cards. You can do it, or an opponent can do it. On Brawl, obviously, there's not really any reason for an opponent to do it. In Commander, there might be. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards a card, so you get 2, and you put something in your graveyard if you want, and then you airbend up to 2 target creatures. Again, instant speed, you can protect your own creatures, you can remove enemies' creatures, you can do all sorts of stuff. Up next, once again, I like using the full cycles of cards in multicolored decks. I like using the, the theme and the flavor, and it just, a lot of times they work really well together. So this is the other half of those mythic double-sided cards from Zendikar. It is a land, it enters tapped. You can tap it for blue, you can pay 3 life, and it doesn't enter tapped. On the front side, you have a 7 mana sorcery, 4 and 3 blue. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, plus 1. Then you have no max hand size for the rest of the game. So if you have 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in hand, you draw 7 and you just never have to discard. It's a very, very good card. And if you need a land, you can basically shock yourself. I guess technically a bolt yourself, but still. And the last card for our card draw, we have Blue Sun Zenith. Very strong card. I want to say this might be a game changer, but I honestly don't remember. Again, Strixhaven Mythical Archive. Instant speed, X and 3 blue. Target player draws X cards. Again, with the target player, you might want to target an opponent. Probably not on Brawl, maybe in Commander. Then you shuffle Blue Sun Zenith into its owner's library. So you can just cast this over and over and over and over and over. Unless it gets countered, unless it gets exiled, unless something like that happens, this is going to go into your library every single time you cast it. And I will do just a quick look through the land. We've got Abandoned Air Temple, gives you +1 counters and enters untapped. If you have other lands, Adagia, when swept, this allows me to copy enchantments and artifacts. Iganjo, Seat of the Empire, this enters in untapped. Or I can channel it, which is basically pay a certain amount of mana and discard it. And it deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Ishgard, Holy Sea, enters tapped, but you can have a sorcery and return 2 artifact and or enchantment cards. Mostly that's in here for like Airbender, Ascension, and Summon Knights of Round. That's the only thing it's really gonna hit. Maybe, one of your Endurings, but these are really gonna be your bigger hits for the enchantments. And again, it's in here more so because I like Final Fantasy. Lupin Flower Village, adds a colorless, enters untapped, add a white to cast a creature. You can pay 2 and sack it, look the top 6, and get a bat, bird, mouse, or rabbit from among them. There's not really many rabbits in here, there's 1 or 2 maybe, but this is just untapped, not basic land. We got 6 plains, we got 5 islands, we got Thriving Heath, one of just a couple tapped lands. It enters, it taps for white, you choose a color that's not white, it also taps for that. Obviously you're choosing blue. We have the Thriving Isle, which is the same exact thing from the cycle, but for blue instead of white. Obviously it enters, you get 1 for white, 1 for blue, boom. Agnokella is another Avatar land. The Avatar lands are very good, very similar to Abandoned Air Temple. Enters in, tapped unless you control basic, tap it for blue. You can pay 3 and tap to draw a card and discard a card, more card advantage. Castle Vantress enters in untapped if you control an island. Tap it for blue, tap 4 to scry. Jidor, which is the other side of the Final Fantasy land, you can pay 6 and target opponent mills half their library. Now we've got Lilipad Village, the other side of the Bloomborough one, which is blue mana or colorless mana. You can only get blue for a creature, and you can also tap 1 and pay 1 to surveil. If you have a bird, frog, otter, or rat, I don't know. I think I don't remember. That one might actually need to get cut. Mysterized Village enters tapped unless you control a mountain or forest. Taps for blue, pay 1, next spell you cast can't be countered. Otawara, which is the other legendary land from Kamigawa. It's another channel land. This time you can bounce something to your hand. Deserted Beach is a slow land. Flood Farm Verge is a check land, I believe those are called. Hollowed Fountain is a shock land. This is the pathway for blue-white. Meticulous Archive, one of the very few that enters tapped. It gives you Surveil. Seachrome Coast is a fast land. You've got Adventurers Inn, it's just a land I really like, generically good. Then we have Command Tower. We've got Lotus Field. We've got Reflecting Pool. We've got Reliquary Tower and Sky Coach Waypoint. I could have swore that I had a creature in here that had a prepared trigger, and that's why I put Sky Coach Waypoint in here. I might be, again, I'm looking at Monk Gyatso, I'm looking at OG, even though I like the card. If it's not paper, I don't want it in here. I'm looking at Lily Pad, maybe cutting those 3 and switching some things out. But we've already been recording for a little over an hour, so we're going to play one match and see how we go. I've had mixed luck on this a lot of the times. If the deck goes off pretty well, the people who I'm playing against wind up conceding before I wind up killing them, because it's just a very hard deck to handle. Alright, opening hand, we've got a counterspell, we've got removal, we've got life gain, and we've got some airbending and card draw, as well as some land. So, we're gonna go ahead and keep this, drop this in, tap it for a white. What's this guy's commander? Ooh, bear-ish? Not tribal, because you got Llanowar Elves. Price sounds very petty, but the competitive brain that I have is thinking I want to kill the Llanowar Elves before it allows him to ramp. Too bad. Okay, you've got 6 cards in hand and nothing that you can do. I would like it if you took your turn. Okay. Okay, yeah. I'm glad now that I did not do anything here. This will definitely be going to exile if he ever passes his turn to me. I'm not one of those people that freaks out and is like, oh, it's your turn, it's your turn, it's your turn after 2 seconds. But I've had so many people play like this tonight where they just refuse to take a turn. They put one thing down, they've got no mana open, they've got all these cards in hand, they don't have a land, they've already played land for turn, there's nothing you can do, and they just sit there for 30 seconds. And I get it. But also, it would be very nice if you could take your turn and then pass. So see now, I've got Aang in my hand, I've got an instant airbend and draw a card, and I've got 2 counter spells. So if he casts something I don't like, I can Aang it, or I can do that. I think I kind of want to get some card draw right now. I'm going to get rid of his commander so the commander trigger doesn't go off. He also doesn't make a food token. And he just gets a body. Oh. Okay, so it counts him. Got you. And he also cannot swing at me with his commander. Now we have a dilemma. I want to get this out as fast as I can and start ramping up those counters, but I also don't want to let him get his commander down because that is a kind of commander that is going to combo out very quickly. So I think for now I will pass, not attack, not do anything. Maybe I will let him... I will just counter it. I have 37 lands in this deck. 38 is like the high end of what you want to be unless you're running specifically a landfall deck. So I've got one shy, and I seem to run into a problem of I have an issue with not being able to get land sometimes in this deck. And I've got card draw. I don't really have like ramp. It's blue-white. There's not really a ton of ramp in blue-white. But I mean, I can card draw engine my way into getting land. It just, I don't know. It's one of those decks where when I get land, I seem to get a lot of it. When I miss a land drop here and there, it seems like I'm swamped and just don't have any for a while. Which is pretty annoying. Interesting. Okay, this will allow me to get out Airbender's Ascension. Leave up enough mana for a memory lapse, or if I so choose, I can Aang. I will not airbend my hinterland, even though it would give me the ability to get a jumpstart on my quest triggers. I'd rather get a little bit of damage in here and have some ETB triggers. If he casts his commander out again, I think the correct play is to counter it. Because he was already up to 4, so that'll make him up to 6, or was he up to 5 and this will be 7? 1, so this will be the third time, so this is going to be 6? Yeah. So he can just hard cast his commander, but it's getting a lot more expensive to cast his commander. That is the really big benefit of this deck, is the ability to sort of just annoy people. Like, I'm just not letting him use his commander at all. I'm not letting him get to his combo pieces. I would like to have more mana. He has 8 to my 5. I like to have more mana than I do currently, but I'm not gonna get pressed about it. He fights, yeah, I was gonna say, if he fights me with his bear, that is not good. That is the one downside to the airbending. Sometimes you gotta be careful about the triggers. Because if they have ETB triggers like that, that might have been a mistake to airbend that one. But I mean, I'll live. Now he will probably have his bear fight me, which is not very good. Okay. Interesting choice. I was hoping this would be a quick match. I already recorded for about an hour before the match started, so I'm a little miffed that this guy is playing so slowly. Okay, I think my correct option here is to do that. I blink that, I get a quest counter, this leaves. Then it comes back, I don't attack, go to my end step, it returns, I get another quest counter, I blink that out? And I get a little bit of life. So that kind of like back and forth shenanigans of something leaves, it targets something else, it comes back, the other thing comes back, you get both triggers of the entry and the leaving, and putting counters on everything, you gain life, so on and so on. Interesting. Interesting. Oop. Sorry about that. It's trying really hard to go wide here, which is interesting. I imagine he's going to swing with his commander now, or is he just protecting it? Let's give her a friendly little wave. You only have one card in hand, buddy. Only so many triggers that you got to play. Let's see what you want to do here. Four. Okay, fantastic. Ooh, nice. Okay. So I might warp her in. Ward 2. This is just have hexproof, right? Yeah. Hoping to remove the first year before he cast his prepared spell. So I should move to my end step. I should get a card draw. Then this will go to... I wonder if I bounce this out. I don't think I'll get the card draw, but I wonder if I get to... Oh, she does come back in, and she doesn't go to exile, I don't think. Oh, nice. Okay. I didn't even think about that. And I do have Soul Warder now, which is also nice. Okay. What I can do is now blink this guy in. Pull this guy out. Gain life, get a counter, gain life, gain life, gain life. His trigger goes away. I probably could have better served doing that with a stop to what he was doing, but I do not want Aang to go away, at least for now. I wish this Aang had flash as well, because it would make the creatures at my upkeep a little bit stronger, but it's already a pretty strong card. I'm not going to complain about it. Guys get big, that's fine. I'll block you with you. 11, 11, 22. I don't know that I want to lose 22 yet. It's my first time that I've cast him. I feel like I might be the first time I've cast him. And I'll block that. Yeah, that seems right. No, it's not what I meant to do at all. Ooh, I made a mistake. I did not realize. I thought I was blocking the two big ones, and I just put them both in front of the same one. When the deck gets going, you can definitely like outlife gain a bunch of stuff, but for these numbers, 3/3 until end of turn, they will get smaller. But that misplay is gonna cost me 6 life, I think. Yeah. Yes. Okay, game froze for some reason. Buddy, it's almost 3:30 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. You've got 1 card in hand, 2 mana, nothing you can do. Unless you want to gain 3 life and sack a food token. Take your turn, please. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna drop this. I'm going to drop our land. I think I will let it enter tapped. I will drop this guy. Okay, what do you do? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll pay the word 2. Auto pay. That goes goodbye, allows me to swing in if I want to. I feel like maybe I don't want to, honestly. Alright, come on buddy, take your turn. You don't need to burn down every single timer that you have. With 1 more mana, I can wipe the board and get rid of some of his stuff without just making him able to recast it. Okay, I will swing in with that for 3. I don't think he has anything instant speed or anything. He could have something flash maybe, but I will get that out. It goes away. This ticks up to 4. We'll just do that. Draw a card. Okay, that's good. If he does some crazy huge mega play, maybe he kills my Aang here. Ooh. That's a really strong card for the goofiness that this deck is doing so far. Okay. Gains trample, that's fine. Sure. I'm just gonna go in for damage. Do I? So right now he very easily could have a rampant growth in his hand or something similar, some sort of pump spell. I think the only thing I'm willing to lose out of what I have is this. I can't do that. I have to do this. Okay, I put that there and I put this here. I don't want to lose Aang. I put her here. So if he has a trick, one of my things die. 15 and 4. Okay, that's fine. It's not fine. I lose the game. Okay. Well, that was a very interesting match. This does struggle against decks like that with very large trample-y creatures that want to trample over you. He also was just playing weird. I'm one of those people, I play like competitive games logically, and when you start doing like weird stuff that makes no sense, it's like goofy, and I don't know. I don't get it. Making tokens wouldn't have done help for me there because they can't block. Maybe removing that was a bad decision. Maybe I should have chumped with something else. I could have taken that, but I guess I should have traded with something else. I don't know. It was a good match. It lasted a lot longer than I thought it would have, and it's a very interesting commander. I've never seen somebody do paired tribal. I'm a big fan of tribal decks. I know they're not typically the strongest, but they're very fun and very good and goofy and theme strong, and I like it. I have a couple tribal myself. I have rat tribal and I have a vampire tribal in paper. Technically, I have very close to a Phyrexian tribal. There's a few support pieces in there, but I have a poison deck with Vishgraz, the Doom Hive, which is a very fun. That was actually the deck that I used to show off what Magic was in my first Magic video. But it's mostly Phyrexians in the deck, with a few exceptions of things that just help support. But anyways, I enjoyed doing that. I don't know if I'll do this kind of a video very often because it is time consuming, obviously, and I don't know how this video will do, so we're gonna see. I'm gonna post it in the next couple days here and see what you guys all think. But if you're new around here, or if you just enjoy what you see so far, make sure you leave a subscribe before you head off and like the video. Let me know in the comments if you're new to Magic or if you've been playing for a long time. Tell me what your favorite cards or deck styles, what's your favorite format, whether you're, limited or brawl or commander, standard, modern, let me know what you guys vibe with. I like just about everything. Tell me what your favorite newest card that you've got, whether it's paper or on Arena. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next video. You have a good week, guys.